Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Starr, and today I want to talk to you about a beautiful topic that can be very sensitive, and it is so powerful. And when we do this level of healing work, it not only benefits us, our ancestors, and our future generations as well. And so ancestral healing, it is so important for us to do ancestral and generational healing. So what do I mean by that? So I first want to remind you that 7 generations before us affect the life we live today. So the things that our grandmother, our parents lived, our grandmother, our great-grandparents, their parents, right? All the way 7 generations back affects us. Our life, our choices, how we see the world. We inherit so much more than we think. And some things that we inherit are also just because they lived it. It's in our DNA. It gets passed down. So when our genes get passed down to us, there's also the vibration of everything those genes lived. It gets transmitted and transported through the line, through the genes, all the way to us. And so not only do we inherit past life things that we lived, but we inherit what our ancestors lived too. And so sometimes, and most of the time on our path, some of the things that we need to heal, and in the bonus, I'm going to guide you through a process to help you to let go of things that you inherited, but you just don't want to take it on, and you don't have to. That's the thing. We have free will. But it's not just that it will happen in the sense of you will inherit everything, and then you have to choose and say, you know what? I'm evolving beyond this. I do not want to choose to live this experience, so I'm going to do the healing work around it to clear it from my line. And so our soul, our divine blueprint, our spirit has the pure codes and frequency of who we are. And then we incarnate into this body, which also holds information from our past lives, as well as from our ancestors through our genes. Not the denim genes, of course, the double helix DNA genes. And this is why we could feel a certain kind of way about certain things. And it makes no sense. We're like, I don't understand. Like, why do I feel this way? So, for example, if there was violation against the feminine in your family line, you are more predisposed and are likely to have been violated in your life as the feminine. And that's why some women are born and then they have this fear and this anger towards the masculine, because their bones, their genes, their DNA knows this trespass, right? There's some people that are born and you can inherit the emotions of your ancestors as well. Things like poverty. If you struggle with money,
or struggle with anything, even food, or struggle with any kind of addictive patterns, etc., all of that you could have inherited from your family. And so we know that. We know that they have found where they say that, let's say, things like addiction are inherited and that certain types of personality traits are inherited. And so it's the same thing. So science is telling us this already. But what science isn't telling us is that we can actually heal it and choose not to inherit it and just decide, you know what, I'm grateful for everything and I'm choosing not to inherit this one thing or these many things. And so the way you can start to see if you've inherited something is you're going to want to look at generational patterns, at the things that are repeating. So like same script, different cast. And so a lot of times we see this in relational dynamics. So for example, I'm going to give some pretty extreme cases in this episode just to help paint the picture. So if you are someone who ever found yourself in emotionally challenging relationships or toxic or abusive relationships of any kind, even if it was just verbal or emotional, etc., and you look back at the history of your family line, you may find that that was lived by the generations before you. And the reason why you would want to heal it is so that you can finally heal relational dynamics and then no longer have the experience of a toxic relationship, etc. So there's both imprint that we experience something in childhood and we take it on to mean, oh, that's what love is. So for example, if you grew up in a household, and I'm going to speak more to the challenges and the traumas because that's what we want to heal, right? So if you witnessed a parent who had an addiction of some kind, or there was a dysfunction between your parents, then you imprinted like, oh, that's what love must mean. That's what love must be. So then you go on to recreate that experience just because it feels familiar. That's an imprint that's taken on from childhood. And the childhood imprints can oftentimes be very similar to what you inherit generationally because your parents are living what their parents lived and what the parents before that lived also. So it's like we carry these things with us. But what's so beautiful is that we can heal them. We don't have to keep allowing things to sabotage our life. And so oftentimes I see it a lot with women too. And let's say they really want to trust men, but they can't. It's so hard. They'd be like, even as a child, they like literally didn't believe what men said to them or boys. They were just like, I think he's lying to me. And it's like both are true. Like if you mistrust, then you oftentimes attract a partner that you won't trust. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so this is why, and so as you do your work to step into divine union, sacred union, you want to heal these aspects of yourself. You know, you don't want to have mistrust. You don't want to attract in a relationship that will create a toxic dynamic that will be harmful to you and prevent you from living the love and the bliss that you so desire. Of course not. And when you know that you maybe need to look at generational or ancestral things that you've inherited is when you don't understand why something keeps happening. And it's like, you know, with your conscious mind, like, you know what love is meant to be like, you know how it's supposed to be, but then you keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over and over again. It's almost like this inevitable thing that no matter how hard you try, you keep finding yourself in a loop. And so the good news is, one, you have the self-awareness around it. And then the even better news is you can heal it. You can heal it, you can release it, you can let it go, you can give it back to your ancestors. And the beautiful part is the type of healing, I'm going to guide you through a form of it inside the bonus content. The kind of healing that I do with clients is it also provides a healing for our ancestors as well. and for those who came before us if they want it. And then the even better news is that we don't have to then transmit it to our children and the future generations. So you and I, especially if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're also here for the healing and awakening of humankind. I know that you're also here to live your ultimate potential, that you're here and devoted and committed to your healing, your transformation, your personal development, your professional development. You are here and desire to be everything you are destined to be. And so with that comes the beautiful responsibility of doing our healing work, and not only for ourselves, but for the 7 generations before us and for the 7 generations to come. In a sense, we feel it as our responsibility to do this work. And many of us are the first to spiritually awaken in our family line. And I'm sure that you've already seen the benefits, that when you've done your healing work and your spiritual awakening, that you've seen people in your family awaken too. And I know that I have. I was kind of the first, I was the first one in my family to awaken spiritually. And then since then, I've seen such beautiful things within my family. Even when I was going to certain healers and shamans in Colombia, my grandmother came with me. And we were able to do some of that healing work together. How beautiful to be able to do it generationally. Even when I had a retreat in Tulum, my mother came and some of her spiritual gifts awakened too. And so that's so rewarding. And so, of course, it's not the expectation, but it's so beautiful to see when it piques curiosity within our family. And that's how you know the work that you're doing is working. And also, even if they never changed, it's still okay. And you can still see how you might even just relate to them differently. So it helps all of your relationships when you do this healing work. And even recently, I was doing some generational healing work with a client, and we got the intuitive download for her to share that she was doing, in one of her sessions, she was doing healing work that was really her mother's healing work. And that's happened to me. I've been on a table and cleared stuff, and the healer was like, that was your grandmother's. So where you even have tensions or some somatic sensations in the body that don't make sense, like let's say you're deepening an intimacy and suddenly you feel a contraction, that fear or contraction or trigger pattern might not even be yours. And so hallelujah, to be able to heal it and clear it. And so with that one client I was speaking of, we got the download because she did so much processing that was a lot of emotions that she was carrying that were her mother's emotions, that we thought it was a good idea for her to just reach out to her mom and tell her how she was and maybe tell her about the healing. And then it turns out that her mom had been seeing a healer and had been doing some healing work herself as well. And so it was so beautiful to see how it was rippling out, even without having to say anything. Even without having to recommend that someone go get healing, you see the positive real-time benefits, how your healing and transformation work is affecting the generations that are alive and the generations to come. And know that anytime you start is perfect. Even if you already have children, it's okay, because you're still helping to shift the frequency in the field. And if you haven't had children yet, then that's like awesome, because now you get to heal certain aspects that you maybe were not even aware of that are sabotaging you from being your best self, living your best relationships, living your ultimate life. I know for me, every time I've healed some really big things, I literally would say to myself, like, thank God I haven't had children yet, so I didn't have to pass that on to them. Because some of the stuff we carry can be really heavy. Think about this last period of humanity. It was like the dark ages. There was World War I, World War II, there were civil wars. There was all kinds of crazy things, all kinds of dark ages and poverty and craziness, right? And so think of, and even like all the genocides that have happened. So think of everything our ancestors have had to live through. It's been some tough times, especially the last 7 generations. Like, man, they were warriors. Like, look what they survived through, right? Like, they were surviving. And now we're entering into a golden age of humanity. And so there's a redemption, there is a healing happening on a massive scale. And as we do this healing work, we're healing all of humanity. We're changing the future. This is the co-creation of the new paradigm. This is why if you do feel yourself as one of the leaders, healers, one of the pioneers of the new paradigm, you already know how important doing your healing work is. And I want to specifically highlight in today's episode how even more we want to do the ancestral work, because that's the stuff that often goes undetected. It's under the radar. It's quite subtle, but it can be influencing our behaviors, our decisions, how we show up with the masculine or the feminine, even things like sisterhood wounds. That can all be stuff from when there were manipulative, challenging, competitive energies with the feminine, with our ancestors, where women didn't trust each other. And then also where we lived it in past lives within ourselves. And so now we have this beautiful opportunity to set everything straight, to bring greater harmony within ourselves, for all beings and things, all of humanity. It's such a gift that we have in this time. And now healing is becoming more mainstream and ready available. And so I really, really, really recommend that you do your ancestral healing work and to look at the patterns in your life and where you may tend to continuously self-sabotage, where you may not feel safe, where you may have judgments, where you have discord, where you get triggered, and where you get triggered about things you're like, I don't even understand where this is coming from. Where you may have some money issues or challenges. Things like this are very much usually connected with ancestral healing and karmas, where we want to cut those ties with poverty. So for example, of course we do this in past life too. Like I have my sovereignty ascension code that helps us do that, like breaking vows of poverty that we may have inherited or taken on, whether we made them ourselves or our ancestors that did them. And sometimes we even need to clear generational curses, hexes, spells. So I don't know if I've mentioned this in past episodes, but one of the biggest things that took me on my spiritual healing journey around the world is I was healing black magic. That was a generational thing through my family line. And because it was on my family line, I also had an experience of black magic being put on me in this life. So it made me susceptible to it. And so a big part of me going to see healers, shamans, medicine people of all kinds, I didn't know that that was the reason, but they kept telling me that this was the source of the challenges and the pains and the things that I was experiencing. So it could be characteristics, but it could just be like a blatant obvious thing is like a generational curse, hex, and spell that needs to be cleared from your field and for your ancestors and for your children. And so I'm going to guide us through a process that I really love to do with my one-to-one clients, as well as do inside of my group mentorship program. And it's really powerful for you to rewrite your story and decide, what are you moving forward with in the world with? What are you deciding and choosing to inherit? And what are you saying, you know what? That's actually not mine. And I choose not to inherit this, because that's the power of your free will. Your free will is so powerful that in any moment, you could decide to change your life. You could decide, this is what I accept, this is what I do not accept, in relationships, in your history, in your family. You decide the stories that you tell yourself and that you tell others. And so I just want to applaud you for doing your healing work, to let you know that it is a positive force for all of humanity, that as you do the healing and transformational work, people see your change. And like I said, it enhances all of your relationship, and then you inspire others to do their healing work. And when you do your healing work, I feel like share about it. because sometimes people don't even know what's the thing that can help them get out of their situation or get out of their victim mentality or get out of whatever stuck pattern or place they're in, or the thing that can even get them to their next level. Maybe they're just ready for the next level. They're ready to live their ultimate life. Things are good, but they want it to be great, excellent, extraordinary. And the healing work, in my world, is the thing that gets you to that next level. Because you purify, refine, you clear the baggage, then you can rise up into your ultimate potential. You can live by your divine design and your divine blueprint instead of by the shackles and the karma and the things and the baggage that might be weighing you down. So take back your power. This work is empowering. I'll see you inside the bonus content. Reach out to me if you'd like to do a one-to-one session around ancestral and karmic and generational healing. Big kiss to you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work.